Hello, my name is Megan, and today we are going to be reading If I Ran the Circus, written and illustrated by Dr. Seuss. In all the whole town, the most wonderful spot is behind Snellock's store in the big vacant lot. Do we know what vacant means? If we look at the picture, can we figure out what it means? Look at the lot. It's empty, right? There's nothing in it. So vacant probably means empty, right? It's just the right spot for my wonderful plans, said young Morris McGurk. If I clean up the cans. Now, a fellow like me, said young Morris McGurk, could get rid of this junk with a half-hour's work. I could yank up those weeds and chop down the dead tree and haul off those old cars. There are just 2 or 3. And then the whole place would be ready, you see. See, it's pretty messy. Do you think Morris will get it cleaned up? Can we predict if he'll get it cleaned up or not? I think he will. All ready to put up the tents for my circus. So his event was a circus. I think I will call it the Circus McGurkus. The Circus McGurkus, the world's greatest show on the face of the earth or wherever you go. Here's the Circus McGurkus sign. Have you ever experienced something similar? Have you ever been to a circus? I have. They're really fun. Do you think his circus will be good? So we can look at the pictures and what can we predict will happen? This says, tonight, grand opening. So what do we think is going to happen? I think he's going to have his grand opening. The Circus McGurkus, the cream of the cream. The Circus McGurkus, the circus supreme. The Circus McGurkus, colossal, stupendous. The Circus McGurkus, astounding, fantastic, terrific, tremendous. Okay, so there's some words there that we might not know what they mean. Do we know what astounding means? Great. Tremendous. Really big. That's what tremendous means. I'll bring in my acrobats, jugglers, and clowns from 1,033 faraway towns to the place that you'll see in Ladies and Gents right behind Snellock's store in the great McGurk's tents. And I don't suppose old Mr. Snellock will mind when he suddenly has a big circus behind. Do you think Mr. Snellock will mind when he has a big circus behind? He might, but he might think it's really fun. After all, Mr. Snellock is one of my friends. He might even help out doing small odds and ends, doing little odd jobs he could be of some aid, such as selling balloons in the pink lemonade. I think 500 gallons will be about right. 500 is a lot, isn't it? That might be a little too much. What do you think? And then I'll be ready for opening night. That's the pink lemonade. Do you think that's too much pink lemonade? I think it might be. What an opening night. What a night. What a sight. I'll hoist up the curtains. Okay, what do we think hoist means? We can look at this picture and we see Morris down here and it looks like he's tugging or pulling on a rope. So hoist probably means to lift, right? That would be right. The crowds will crowd in, and my Circus McGurkus will promptly begin. With a welcoming toot on my welcoming horn, by my horn-tooting apes from the jungles of Jorn, where the very best horn-tooting apes are all born. 'Cause the very fresh air there is fine for their lungs, and some of those fellows have 2 or 3 tongues. This way, step right in. This way, ladies and gents. My sideshow starts here, in the first of my tents. When you see what goes on, you'll say no other circus is half the great circus the Circus McGurkus is. Here on the stage 1, from the ocean of Ulf, is a sight most amazing, a walrus named Rolf, who can stand on one whisker, this wonderful Rolf, on the top of 5 balls, 2 for tennis, 3 for golf. It's a marvelous trick, if I say so myself. So what did they do there? The book said, if I say so myself, and the walrus's name was Rolf, so it was rhyming. The word is actually myself, but it rhymed myself with Rolf. And you see the walrus right here balancing. And on stage number 2, here is something quite new. From a country called From comes this drum-tummied snum, who can drum any tune that you might care to hum. Doesn't hurt him a bit, 'cause his drum tummy's numb. What does the word numb mean? Numb means that he can't feel it. Here he is, drumming on his tummy. And you'll now meet the Foon, the remarkable Foon, who eats sizzling hot pebbles that fall off the moon. And the reason he likes them red hot, it appears, is he greatly enjoys blowing smoke from his ears. Wow, look at that. He's blowing smoke from his ears. Of course, pebbles like this are quite hard to collect, but Sneeluck will manage somehow, I expect. After all, Mr. Sneeluck is one of my friends, and I'm sure he'll help out doing small odds and ends. Here's Mr. Sneeluck collecting the pebbles. And on stage number 4, see the Willy Walloo, who can throw his long tail as a sort of lasso. With a flip of the hip, with a tail of this kind, he can capture whoever is standing behind. He can capture old Sneeluck. I'm sure he won't mind. Here he is, capturing Mr. Sneeluck. And now here is a hoodwink, who winks in his wink hood. Without a good wink hood, a hoodwink can't wink good. And folks, let me tell you, there's only one circus with wink-hooded hoodwinks, the Circus McGurkus. Here's the hoodwink. The show of all shows, there's no other showman who shows you a show with a blindfolded bowman. The blindfolded bowman from Brigger Root, the world's sharpest sharpshooter, look at him shoot. Through the holes in 4 donuts, 2 hairs on a worm, and the knees of 3 birds without making them squirm. And then on through a crab apple, up on the head of Sneeluck, who likes to help out, as I've said. Wow. Do you think Mr. Sneeluck is going to continue to like to help out? I think he might. What do we think? And now come to the spot where the spotlight is hot. And you'll see in the spotlight a juggling Jot, who can juggle some stuff you might think he could not, such as 22 question marks, which is a lot. Also 44 commas and also 1 dot. That's the kind of a Circus McGurkus I've got. Okay, so, can you juggle question marks? No, because they are not a thing. They're written. They are not an actual object. But he is at Circus McGurkus. But that's just my sideshow. A start, a beginning. This way to the big tent, you'll find your head spinning. Why, ladies and gentlemen, youngsters and oldsters? Your heads will quite likely spin right off your shoulders. So hurry, step lively, quick, ladies and gents, and get into your seats in my tent of all tents. My parade of parades is about to commence. What does commence mean? It's about to begin. Here's the big tent. What can we predict is going to happen? Mr. Morris has had some crazy things happen so far at his circus, but he said that was just the sideshow. So what do we think could be even bigger? What is the biggest thing you can think of at a circus? What would you write if you were to write the rest of this book? We'll see if you're right. You'll see Drum Major Sneelock fling his baton, and my organ McGurkus come on, with its hot steaming pipes of gold brass-plated tin, snorting all sorts of snorts in a bumbling din. That is super stupendous, stupendous, stupendous. And when I play Dixie, please join to the chorus. Then a fluff-mumbled truffle will ride on a huffle, and next in the line a fine flummox will shuffle. The flummox will carry a lurch in a pail, and a fibble will carry the flummox's tail, while on top of the flummox 3 harp-twanging snarp will twang mighty twangs on their 3 snarper harp, while a bolster blows bloops on a 3-nozzled blueser, and Nolster blows floops on a 1-nozzled nooser, and then comes a lion who's partly a trout. Then more stuff for 45 minutes about. Okay, so what can we infer about this story so far? Do you think this is a true story, or do you think that this is fiction? None of these things sound very real, do they? So it has to be fiction, right? Here's the half lion, half trout. Does that look real? It's pretty cool, but it doesn't look very real. And then behind them, while everyone stares, come my to and fro marchers who march in 5 layers. The fros march on twos, and the twos march on fros. Don't know how they do it, but that's how it goes. Here they are. Wow. It looks like they're marching on each other's heads. And now comes an act of enormous. No former performers performed this performance. This stunt is too gripplingly, slipplingly frightening. Down from the top of my tent like greased lightning, through pots full of lots of big stickle bush trees, slides a man. What a man! On his roller skate skis? And he'll steer without fear, and you'll know at a glance that it's Sneelock, the man who takes chance after chance, and he won't even rip a small hole in his pants. Look at that. Did you predict that was what was going to happen? I sure didn't. And now here, in this cage, is a beast most ferocious, who's known far and wide as the spotted atrocious, who growls, howls, and yowls the most blood-curdling sounds, and each tooth in his mouth weighs at least 60 pounds. And he chews up and eats with the greatest of ease things like carpets and sidewalks and people and trees. But the great Colonel Sneelock is just the right kind of man who can tame him. I'm sure he won't mind. That looks pretty scary. Do you think that Mr. Colonel Sneelock will mind this one? I think he might mind that one. I'd be scared, would you? Then I'll let Sneelock off for a few minutes' rest, while high over your heads you will see the best of the world's finest, fanciest, breezy, trapezing, my Zuma Zoop troop from West Upper Bendeezing, who never quite know, while they zoop and they zoom, whether which will catch what one, or who will catch whom, or if who will catch which by the what and just where, or just when and just how, in which part of the air. Wow. Aye, what a circus! My Circus McGurkus! My workers love work. They say, work us, please work us. We'll work and we'll work up so many surprises you'd never seen half if you had 40 eyes. Have you ever seen a circus this cool? And now, again, Sneelock, brave Sneelock is back, risking life on my patent, life-risking track, while the speedsters I call my colliding collusions race round in swift cars called abrasion contusions, and Sneelock just lies there, not one bit excited. I know he won't mind. He'll be simply delighted. There he is in the middle of the track. You see him? Just lying there. What do you think they're going to do? He's lying on the track. Do you think they'll stop for him? Or do you think they'll jump over him? Either way, that's pretty scary. And here in a contest of brute strength and muscle, Kid Sneelock, my champ of all champs, will now tussle and wrestle a beast called the Grizzly Ghostly and slap him around. Then he'll slam him down fastly and pin both his shoulders tight flat to the mat. Kid Sneelock will love it, I'm sure about that. And while that goes on there, look at this go on here. Have you heard of my herd of through horns jumping deer? Every deer jumps through horns of another pell-mell, while his horns are jumped through at the same time as well, by a deer whose horns are also being jumped through, by another who's having his horns jumped through too, which I'm sure Trainer Sneelock can train them to do. Wow. Then the whole tent will ring with hoorays and wild shouts when I wheel in my whales and they turn on their spouts. First my whale number 1, with an aim that aims true, spouts a spout that spouts Sneelock to whale number 2. And then whale number 2 spouts a spout like a gun, and that spout spouts old Sneelock right back to whale number 1. And then forwards and backwards on spout after spout, my great spout rider Sneelock gets spouted about, just as long as the water their spouting holds out. So when it says that he's being spouted about, he's being thrown from one whale to another by their blowholes forcing out water. Then my tournament knights, noble apes without fears, Sir Hector, Sir Vector, Sir Boops, and Sir Beats, Sir Hawkins, Sir Dawkins, Sir Jocks, and Sir Jeers, clatter into the tent, and while everyone cheers, stay with their boxing glove spears. And while all this wild ruckusing goes on below, at the top of the tent, look, the star of my show. Great daredevil Sneelock, the world's bravest type. He comes pulled through the air by 3 Sue Bryan snipe on a dingus contraption attached to his pipe. And while people below are all turning chalk white and all biting their fingernails off in their fright, great Sneelock soars up to a terrible height. Then he shakes himself loose. He starts down in a dive, such as no man on earth could come out of alive. But he smiles as he falls, and no fear does he feel. His nerves are like iron, his muscles like steel. And he plunges down, down, with his hair still combed neat, 4,692 feet. Is 4,692 feet a lot? That's a lot. That is very, very high up. There he is, up here. About to fall. Then he'll land in a fishbowl. He'll manage just fine. Don't ask him how he'll manage. That's his job, not mine. Do you think he'll land in the fishbowl? That's pretty small for Mr. Sneelock to land in. Why, he'll be a hero. Of course he won't mind when he finds that he has a big circus behind. And that's the end of the story. So if you had written the story, what would you write differently? Would you change the ending? Would you add something crazier to the circus? If so, what would it be? Bye-bye.